In what sense are people truly free to choose? This question leads to a broader one. Can everything the Bible says be trusted as an absolute truth without contradictions? Or is it a human text that, like any human work, uncomfortable questions about belief and organized reflection on faith, justice, freedom, and suffering? This text brings together a series of questions and reflections on the nature of belief, justice, suffering, and human freedom. It does not aim to provide final answers or impose a belief. Its purpose is to organize complex ideas in simple language so that anyone can follow the reasoning and draw their own conclusions. What can love have limits? Even for belief, if belief is just, it follows that he punishes those who do wrong. But a question arises: if Jesus represents unconditional love, could he love sinners even more than a belief who must also act as judge? This tension between love and justice is one of the central dilemmas of theology. Can someone love without limits while also judging with justice? To the imperfect, created by the perfect, every person, if honest with themselves, recognizes that they are not perfect. If human beings are God's creation, one may ask, why is that creation imperfect? A simple way to approach this is to look at the work in order to know the maker. If the work has flaws, perhaps that says something about who made it. This is not an accusation, but an open question about what the perfection of a creator really means. The same idea appears when thinking about miracles. If belief alters the rules of reality in order to intervene in the world, isn't he, in a way, acknowledging that those rules are not enough? Breaking one's own rule could be understood as a form of imperfection, or simply as a sign that divine perfection does not mean absolute rigidity. 3. Why does suffering teach? A recurring idea is that perfect peace does not exist, because whoever lives in peace always needs something or someone to protect them. This is reflected in everyday life: a mother protecting her child, or the immune system defending the body from disease. Following this reasoning, belief would have left defense systems scattered throughout his creation, as if the message were seek and you shall find protection everywhere, rather than a peace that arrives without effort. 4. Free will and God's knowledge. The Bible states that belief knows what people will do before they decide it themselves. This raises an interesting logical contradiction. If belief knows with absolute certainty that tomorrow you will choose X, then it seems impossible for you to choose anything other than X, because that would make that knowledge false. In other words, if the future is already written in divine knowledge, in what sense are people truly free to choose? This question leads to a broader one. Can everything the Bible says be trusted as an absolute truth without contradictions? Or is it a human text that, like any human work, may contain internal tensions worth examining honestly? 5. Soul's power and wars. If one accepts that belief controls which soul animates each body, both of good people and of bad people, then he would also have allowed, in some sense, the existence of figures like belief and the power that he achieved. By extension, this line of thinking suggests that belief would also bear some indirect responsibility for the origin of wars, since he decided which souls would occupy which positions of power. 6. Corrupt people within religions. Another difficult idea is that, if belief has allowed people with harmful intentions, such as abusers, to occupy positions within religious institutions, then the responsibility of those institutions would be to recognize and expose those cases, rather than covering them up. Silence or concealment is presented here as a betrayal of the truth these institutions are supposed to represent. 7. What exactly is belief? A central proposal of this text is that belief would be neither a person nor a spirit, since both categories refer to created things. Belief instead would be the creator itself, something that exists in a category entirely different from everything else. This leads to another question. If belief created Jesus with qualities different from those of any other human being, that is, as a superior being, would that be just? If all other beings were created equal to one another, but one received special qualities, wouldn't belief be treating his own creation unequally? His justice, karma, and reincarnation instead of immediate punishment or reward. God's justice could be expressed through karma, meaning consequences that are reflected even in future generations. Following the same logic, life on different worlds or planets would make sense as part of a long cycle of reincarnation, in which each person develops through living and dying many times. From this perspective, a person's abilities or gifts would not be free gifts from belief, but the result of work done in past lives. True charity, then, would not be giving things to those most in need, but giving them the opportunity to work and earn their own development. 9. Intelligence and inner freedom. There is a striking idea here. The more intelligent a person is, the less internal freedom they would have, because an intelligent person is compelled by their own clarity of mind to act correctly. If bleep is the highest intelligence that exists, this raises a curious question. Is bleep truly free, or is he in some way trapped within his own consciousness, always compelled to do what is right? Tolerance, exclusion, and heaven-hatred, as we know, creates separation between people based on their beliefs. This leads to an uncomfortable question for many religions. Why wouldn't someone who has lived an exemplary life, full of good deeds, deserve to enter heaven simply because they don't believe in Jesus or in miracles? Why should a person of a different religion be excluded from the kingdom? A bleep if their actions were good. 11. When a virtue is taken to the extreme, any virtue taken to the extreme can turn into something harmful. Imagine what would happen if everyone followed the Bible literally and absolutely. They would have to forgive all their enemies, even violent ones, and never defend themselves. Following this logic to its end, good people should have forgiven bleep and allowed him to annihilate those who thought differently, leaving the world dominated by force rather than by virtue. This extreme example serves to illustrate an important point. Even the noblest principles, applied without any nuance or practical judgment, can produce results that are the opposite of the goodness they were originally meant to protect. Final note: these reflections do not seek to offer a final answer, but rather to invite free thinking about topics that are often taken as settled without ever being questioned. Each reader can reach their own conclusions from these questions.